Hi guys, and welcome to my review of this week's Smackdown. So this episode opened up essentially continuing the feud between Cody Rhodes and Drew McIntyre. We had Drew McIntyre showing up. We had this little bit of a narrative about there being a resolution to Drew McIntyre's suspension, so they can basically have this rematch. That's essentially the end goal. This tended to briskly move on to Obafemi being inserted into the mix, and Obafemi and Cody Rhodes having this face-off, which I was really pleased about. When they had continued this feud between Cody Rhodes and Drew McIntyre, I was kind of glad that it didn't just solely stay focused on that, as if this match between Obafemi and Cody Rhodes at Saturday night's main event wasn't going to happen. It was good that we got some sort of build to this match. I think that Obafemi is great on the mic, to be fair, so it's always good to see him kind of go against somebody of the stature of Cody Rhodes in this promo. So yeah, and I'm kind of built up for this match at Saturday night's main event, and yeah, I think that this opening did make me think that maybe in my predictions video for Saturday night's main event, I had predicted I'd taken an outside shot at Obafemi actually picking up a win here for the shock. The fact that we had this sort of interchange between Cody, Obafemi and Drew McIntyre, it is starting to make me think that potentially Drew McIntyre could actually get involved in Saturday night's main event, and you could potentially have Obafemi pick up the win through that, and it would give Cody Rhodes some sort of protection. Not that I think that Cody Rhodes needs protection, because he's essentially the face of a company. He's a white knight of WWE, so I don't think that he needs any protection. But just with that sort of the narrative WWE seems to go for, where they always seem to use interventions and stuff to kind of provide protection. I do start to think that that's the most likely out of all the potential returns and swerves and stuff that I didn't really get into in my predictions video, because it's Saturday night's main event, and that's not really tends to be a big event for them to do that. But yeah, I think that out of all of them, that's the most likely, that we could actually see Drew McIntyre turn up and cost Cody Rhodes the win here. But yeah, we'll have to wait and see. So we had then moved on to Ciampa finally getting his shot at Ilya Dragunov for the and for the US title. And I do think that this was just I thought that this was a solid match, to be honest with you. Again, I just think that every match that Dragunov has is really solid. And yeah, this was just no exception. So yeah, real good sort of to and fro in this match. We had some blood from Dragunov with his nose bleeding. It was the match that certainly I felt that this was quite likely going to showcase Dragunov being pushed the most in compared to his previous title defenses. I thought that Ciampa was the one who would push him the most in this, and the reason why, because obviously this whole Ciampa and Dragunov feud has been going on for since they put the title on Dragunov and he started doing these open challenges. So there's been a certain build to this. So I always felt that there needed to be a kind of a bit of a crescendo with this. I wasn't convinced that Ciampa was going to pick up a win here, which he didn't. So I wasn't surprised to see Dragunov retain. But yeah, sometimes it had me. I thought they could go the other way, but yeah, just everything that the match needed to be, I think. But yeah, we saw Dragunov being tested the most, and I think that it was a perfect way to kind of pay this feud off, I guess. We'll have to wait and see. I mean, they did start with a beatdown and the and all of that. So who knows if they're going to continue this? But I kind of hope not. I kind of hope that they just kind of like move on with. But who knows? We had the Wyatt Six come out. This is continuing their feud with the MFTs. I still kind of like. We had the announcement that the MFTs were going to challenge your Wyatts for the tag team titles on next week's SmackDown. I do still have a sneaking suspicion that we are going to see MFTs being crowned the new champions the next week, just because they haven't really done anything with the Wyatt Six. This moves me on to another thing, but then we had this confirmation that SmackDown was going to move to 3 hours from the 2nd of January. This is news that we've known for a few weeks now. Honestly, it's something that I feel mixed about, because obviously we've been in this position before, not so long ago, when SmackDown was 3 hours and it was getting a lot of backlash from fans. I didn't hate it as much as a lot of fans online, but I certainly acknowledge the criticisms of it. So on that level, it does make me nervous, but I do think that there is cause to be more optimistic about this move, because I do think that there is a potential. I said it before, where I think that one of my main critiques of WWE on the whole is that the main roster is just so stacked, and then you basically have the main roster is so stacked that there isn't really enough room to showcase the full array of talent that they have. And then you have, obviously, now in a situation where you have all these NXT call-ups, you have people coming up from TNA and all of that, which, it's great to see that wide array of talent being showcased, but at the same time it adds to the problem of them just being kind of being pushed towards this summit, which is the main roster, which is just so overstuffed that it almost it doesn't end up feeling like a promotion. It feels like a bit of a nail in your career a bit, because it does feel like they're just going into this overstuffed roster where there just is, and so after a while they just end up falling into this void. And I think there's been numerous examples of that. I think that this move it to 3 hours can potentially resolve some of that, where you obviously where you're obviously going to have more time to kind of showcase all of this. You're going to give essentially this more running time for that main roster to breathe, to showcase that talent, because SmackDown has previously been 3 hours, and then they kind of like changed it and cut it down, and now they made the decision to go back to 3 hours. You would have thought that they would have reviewed the situation before en route to this. So you would think that they wouldn't sort of make the same mistakes as they did before, because you would have thought they would have just kind of like acknowledged what maybe wasn't working before and kind of reviewed it, and now they've kind of like rectified it. They've now decided to go back to the 3 hour. So I mean, who knows? We'll have to see how it goes. But yeah, I do feel mixed on it. I would be lying to you if I said that I wasn't a little bit nervous about it. But at the same time, I do feel like that there is a potential for growth here. I do think that there is a potential for progress here. We'll just have to see how it goes. We had. We also had the Alexa Bliss and Lash Legend match in there, which when it was announced, I kind of figured that I suspected that this might have been a squash match, which it kind of ended up being. And that's not to be disparagingly to Alexa Bliss, because obviously she's a superstar in her own right. But yeah, this was always just going to be the Lash Legend show. This was always going to be a vessel to showcase Lash Legend and the powerhouse that they kind of wanted to showcase her to be, and it absolutely did that. We had the match between Javon Evans and The Miz here. During this match, I did sort of wonder whether there was going to be they were going to maybe introduce a little bit of a not an injury storyline, but I thought maybe we could have arrived off the back of this match at a point in a Saturday night's main event where they could run with this narrative of well, Javon Evans only had this match with The Miz 24 hours ago, so he's not 100%, and maybe that could sort of play into the kind of a rhetoric of that match at Saturday night's main event. I don't necessarily think if they are going to go with that angle with how it sort of played out, but yeah, I thought that this match between Javon Evans and The Miz it made a lot of sense. The Miz is obviously a heel veteran. That it seems to be that tends to be his role at the minute whenever WWE want to kind of push an up and coming rising star. They tend to have him feud with The Miz so that he can kind of like put them over, and he's really good and effective at that. Why change it? And this is just another example of that. Always still a bit of a gamble to when you announce somebody to be at a PLE and then you put him in the match like the night before. Obviously, it's always a gamble, but it worked out. Solid match again between two great athletes. I think the future is just really bright for Javon Evans. I think he is just a phenomenal talent. We had a sort of another squash match then, which wasn't really a match because it wasn't really officially kind of like really started. But we had this match between Jade Cargill and Michin. We had this. It started with this backstage segment with Jade Cargill attacking Michin backstage and then coming out and then sort of cutting their promo. We had Michin coming out, never being one for kind of self-preservation, which he came out with this kendo stick and started beating Jade Cargill with this kendo stick, and then she took time out to get this table from out the ring, and this caused Jade Cargill to recover and just kind of like squash her. We're going to. I did think it was kind of badass. So when Jade Cargill put Michin back in the ring, she just picked the table up and put it back underneath the ring. She didn't utilize it in any way. I just thought, and she just put the table, which is really a kind of like you would expect kind of a heel to to kind of go for stuff like that. But I really thought it was kind of badass that she kind of just put the table back under the ring and got back in the ring and just, was like, no, I don't need any weapons. I can just crush you with my own hands. I just thought that was kind of a nice little like accentuation point. So yeah, and then we just moved on to obviously our main event between Rhea Ripley and Damian Priest in the mixed tag team match against Damian Priest and Zelina. Again, solid match. I did think it was a little bit anticlimactic for a main event, but yeah, it was fine for it. It was fine, and yeah, that pretty much was it. So we had Rhea Ripley and Damian Priest picking up a win, which kind of made sense. It seemed to be in this feud between Aleister Black and Damian Priest, which seems to be been going on for God knows how long now. It feels like really kind of like long and drawn out, and it seems to be that maybe Aleister Black has kind of come out on top of that. So it sort of made sense for Rhea Ripley and Damian Priest to get some sort of like retribution here. We had preceding this, we had a bit of a backstage little kind of tease between Rhea Ripley and Jade Cargill. I think that would be another really potential banger of a match. But yeah, we had these little backstage segments throughout SmackDown as well, where we had all these little tag team displays. Obviously, we had Nia Jax and Lash Legend here. We had Alexa Bliss and Charlotte Flair here. We had like Rhea Ripley and Io Sky, or Rio as going. So there was there was that continued focal point on the tag team divisions as well, which I thought was really good. I mean, I thought the tag team division especially in the men's, was always really strong with SmackDown. I thought that was one of the things they did really well. But it feels really good that they're putting focus on the women's tag team division on SmackDown as well. Just like I was saying in my review of last Monday Night Raw, it seems to be really good that they're finally putting some work into this tag team division on both sides. So yeah, that was really good. So yeah, all in all, a fine episode of SmackDown, one of those just slightly above average SmackDown episodes. Yeah, not great, not bad. It was just it was fine. Yeah, so yeah, if you enjoyed this video, you want to see more, don't forget to ring a bell for notifications. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Feel free to let me know down in the comment section about what your thoughts on this episode of SmackDown were, along with what your thoughts on SmackDown going back to 3 hours is. All of that stuff, let me know down in the comment section. And until next time, I'll see you guys on the next video. You guys take care.